You did mention Jalen Hurts. Let's get to that because the other story of the day is that the Eagles have signed Jalen Hurts to a big money extension and gave him $51 million guaranteed. Or that's what he counts against their cap this year, $51 million. The 49ers quarterback room, their entire quarterback room right now, as you already said, Raj, counts for $15 million. So to me, that's a huge advantage for the 49ers going into this year. I mean, the Eagles are paying their quarterback for the first time, big time franchise altering, highest money in the NFL. And you have arguably one of the cheapest quarterback rooms in the game. This might seems to me to be their best chance to be that dominant team in the NFC and get beyond the Eagles, just because that right there is a huge advantage. That's $51 million compared to 15 million on quarterbacks, and you can't, it's a hard cap. I mean, you only have so much money to spend on your roster, so that should be a huge advantage now that the Eagles are spending that much for Hurts.
Yeah, absolutely. $255 million contract extension. I just had to when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's a lot of money. So it tells you they're all committed to this guy. And you're right, they're going to have to take some losses with this. And their kind of window is win now. You're not going to be able to sign a lot of players. They lost Javon Hargrave to the 49ers. So that's one person we took from them to make them weaker. So right now, in the NFC, if you want to strike and win this championship, it's in these next couple of years. I mean, Jalen Hurts is great. I think he can take them far, but they will have some weaknesses because they're not going to be able to sign a lot of players, now that they're locked into this contract. Obviously, there's a lot of outs with the contract, with the cap. You can move money down and do all these weird things, but at the end of the day, man, this is a huge contract, and it's going to lock them into a point where there's going to be times where they're going to lose out on players. And if the 49ers with a cheap quarterback room, they might be able to strike and get big time players. Again, Hargrave was one of them this year. They got CMC last off or mid season on a trade, and then you can restructure his deal and continue to bolster your team. If you have a cheap quarterback, on your roster for a little bit, you're doing great things. So then it goes back to this whole, drafting a quarterback. If the 49ers go, let's just say hypothetically, let's say they take DTR. Let's say somehow he comes into the team because of injuries or something, and then he blossoms. You got another quarterback that could be a potential, game-winning quarterback on your roster or a franchise quarterback for another cheap contract. So it's going to continue with the 49ers. And then they can go and sign other players, or re-sign Brandon Ayuk next year. So 49ers are in a very, very unique situation. I know a lot of people are upset about the quarterback, figure it out. They need to get healthy. They need to pick a guy. But if one of these guys pans out, they're not going to be getting paid nearly as much as Jalen Hurts. So, but at the same time, the 49ers do need to make sure they get a franchise level quarterback because that's what's kind of limiting them away from winning the Super Bowl. But man, Jalen Hurts, shout out to him. I wish I was making that much money.
Exactly. Well, I'll tell you one approach that I would love to see them take with the quarterbacks in the draft. Hey, you just picked Brock Purdy. Nobody else did. You picked him, so you had a pretty good instinct on that. Whoever had that instinct, whoever wrote those reports, take a deep dive on this year's quarterback group. And I guarantee you one of these second-tier quarterbacks is going to be very, very good. Figure out which one it is. Draft that guy. And then you look at the rest of that room, there's going to be questions about every single one of these guys. Sam Darnold, does he stink? Or did he kind of find himself last year in Carolina? I thought his highlight reel looked really good, but you look at his numbers late in the year in one of the games that he played, it was atrocious. So is Sam Darnold a new man, or is it the same old Sam Darnold that's really not been very good? That's question one. Question two, is Trey Lance this all-world player that you thought you were getting going to step right into being the next great, Patrick Mahomes type quarterback, or is he non-functional, can't play at all in the NFL? We're going to find out. Brock Purdy, is he the same guy that led you down this unbelievable stretch last year and looked like he was headed to the Super Bowl? Or is he a guy with, who can't throw anymore because of a terrible elbow injury that was somewhat freaky? But, is he going to be able to make a return? And then all these quarterbacks in the draft have questions about them. So it's a very unique situation because the Niners have as good a roster as there is in pro football. they're the Vegas leader in the over under total as far as this upcoming year. Vegas is expecting them to be very good, and yet the most important position by far is quarterback. And it's April 17th, and we really don't have any idea who's going to be the quarterback, how it's going to look, how they're going to play. It's going to be absolutely riveting for sure to see this thing come together, because the talent around the quarterback is phenomenal. To me, if they can get another quarterback in that room to compete, that would be a great thing. The other great thing would be if they could really use this draft to bolster their physicality on their offensive line. So they got a couple of real, horses up front to block. That would really help whoever is going to be quarterbacking this team.